to our panel discussion about cloud services and device management, changing the game of digital signage. I have a lot of very competent people here on stage, and I'm very happy to be with you. So we have Vincent from Telelogos. Christophe, sorry. Vincent is on this side. The French. Jason and Stan. So in this morning we already seen some slides about moving digital signage software into the cloud. And I just pointed on these slides to show you where we're talking about today. In the past, we came from the on-premise world, and now we're shifting more to cloud-hosted and to full cloud. And it's not just the software running in the cloud, it's also the devices we need to manage more and more, and that's getting more complex. We're also seeing this this morning. In the past, we just had Windows clients, you know all this, if you are longer in the market, and now we're getting more complex worlds. And I'm very happy to discuss with you about the cloud, data, and device management today. So, Vincent, take the mic. It's your part now.
Yes.
I think you started 12 years ago and directly in the cloud.
Yes, that's correct. Our first feature based on AWS that we made the choice for was released 10 years ago, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and is it, from your perspective, is it a challenge to have this with your customers, the discussion to have only pure cloud solution or not on-premise?
I would say it has been a challenge until 2 years ago. Around that, and now it's not anymore a challenge. It's even not a discussion to discuss, well, do you have an on-premise option or not? No, it's not part of the discussion anymore. And I would even argue that our customers are asking for a cloud solution because all the benefits that they can indirectly get from such a solution, such as security, integrity, scalability, and these kind of things. And at the end of the day, they figure out that a cloud-based solution would be better for their business in the long term than a non-premise solution.
Jason. What do you think? Is this the same for you? And did you already started in the cloud, or you think you're longer in the market? You made a shift,
Yeah, no, exactly. Echo exactly everything that Vincent said. From our point of view, we kicked off, I suppose, our journey with I suppose hosted digital signage, and then moving into cloud back in 2007.
Yeah.
We had the fortunate opportunity of winning a major project with a national lottery operator in the UK, which went from nothing to 2,500 endpoints as the first customer.
Yeah.
So it kind of gave us a good basis for where things were going to go, and then it was a case of then just tracking really the market. We made I suppose a conscious decision not to continue with any form of on-premise development at that point.
Yeah.
And then really it was just the emergence of the plethora of hardware that was enable us to move the intelligence from the player to the cloud. And then the simplicity.
So you moved it step by step?
We moved. I think there was an evolution of our own product in terms of actually moving that intelligence, getting away from the dependence of actually calculating how to play back media on the devices, and moving that back to the edge of the cloud that allows us then to deploy and manage all the different technologies that are out there. And I'd also echo the fact, from a security point of view, I think like all of us here.
You also had to change the developers in your company because you now have a different development approach?
No, I think we were fortunate that there was developers that transitioned over, and then we were able to double down and focus on those that had those skill sets.
Yeah. Stan, how was it in your company? Did you already started in the cloud, or did you also moved?
We got very lucky. We started 2017 building the solution, and it was already the cloud age. So we didn't really have to solve any legacy deployments or anything. We were starting as a blank page.
Yeah.
So we didn't even discuss an option starting an on-prem company. So from day one, we were cloud native, and we felt like this is the way to go, and never really considered an on-prem solution. We felt this would be too restricting in the global strategy that we wanted to apply, really go after global deals. And I mean, that's just so much easier with the infrastructure that has been built over the past 10 years by companies like Amazon or Google or Microsoft. That you can rely on this, and frankly, I mean, we don't even have the expertise. We would have to build the expertise to actually build on-prem solutions. So, so we didn't want to, care about that, which is when it's something that is instantly scalable and can, reach the masses.
Mm-hmm. But it's also a different licensing model. So you don't buy it once, so you have to buy it like SaaS subscription. But is it a problem with your customers?
Well, for us, it's even better, right? I mean, recurring revenues, that's why probably all of us are in the business, right? Like, and you have seen companies like Adobe and others are trying desperately to change their models from, standard revenue generating businesses into recurring revenue businesses. Of course, some customers might find this, troublesome. But as the number of options that they can get is shrinking, I mean, eventually they will have to, go our way, go the recurring revenue way.
Mm-hmm. Christophe. I'm talking
Yeah,
around.
so I'm the last one, so I have nothing really interesting to say, but...
No,
but that's true that for most of the customers, it's not an issue anymore, but still, we have a lot of banking customer, and still they do not want the cloud solutions, so they are still on-premise. And also in some countries, it's still difficult. I mean, for example, in China, in Northern Africa, for example, even South America. I mean, it's not that easy, like in Europe. But of course, I mean, we're all shifting to cloud. And what is funny is that, for example, 5 years ago, even in France, for example, I had a customer who said, no, I don't want to go to the cloud because of security, because I don't know where it will go. Now it's the opposite. They say, yeah, we want to be in the cloud because of security, because we hacked. So now we're pretty sure that AWS or Microsoft Azure is fully secure, so I want to be in the cloud. So it's really shifting things.
Yeah, it's a mindset that changed in the business. And you're very strong. You're 40 years now in the market, and you're very strong in device management. And how many devices do you manage? 500,000 devices?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Like that. And what do you think? You now support Windows and Android currently with your platform, and then they do a lot of more platforms. But do you think that's currently where you stay, or will you move more?
That's really a choice to stay on Windows and Android. We believe that we are customer-centric, and we think that when you provide Windows and Android, they can do anything they want. They have player, they have SoC on Android, which are really good, so they can do whatever they want. But I think it's also good for them in the midterm or long term. They are not stuck with an operating system. So if you go to a proprietary solution, sometimes it will be good at the beginning, but in the midterm, if you want to change the manufacturer of display or hardware or even CMS, then it's not that easy. So I think it's really good for the customer to go to standard operating system, and you're pretty sure that Windows and Android will stay for a long time. For some other proprietary OS, it's not always the case also.
Stan, you try to solve this. You try to solve this hassle with a lot of different hardware platforms. What are your experience? Do you need, at the end, 10,000 developers?
So what Christophe described, that's exactly why we are in the business, right?
Yeah.
So we are trying to take this burden off their shoulders so they can comfortably make a decision to go with whatever hardware they like or with whatever software they like. So we are trying to bring this ultimate flexibility into that. And sorry, I forgot the last part of the question.
Yeah, actually, do you need more and more developers because you have more and more hardware platforms to support?
I mean, there is probably a finite number of developers that we will need. Of course, the more platforms you need to operate, the more people, the more labor and hands you need. But there is only so much difference, right? Like the delta that you need to take care of every year, and probably. Jason can tell us, right? For them, it's probably has become way easier to adjust and adopt the changes that some of the hardware manufacturers are bringing on the market, because they already do have this base, and they are basically just adding new features. The thing is, I mean,
but sometimes they're adding a security feature, and then you're locked in. Or
you mean
Knox or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's more. It's probably not just about the security features. It's more about some breaking changes that might be introduced.
Yeah, it's a breaking change.
Yes. So then, you probably need to hire more developers, or give us a call.
And I heard, if I talk to you, I heard you releasing so often a new software release that your customers get into struggle. And you slow down this because you're in the cloud and you can do a lot of software releases.
Yeah, I think the key thing for us is that when we talk about a software release, I think we're truly agile in the way that we operate. And there's so many different aspects of our platform. So as Stan will vouch for, you've got the player support. We've then got media management. We've now got a platform that manages data integration and data services. So, we've, in the last couple of weeks, released 4 updates. We'll do probably a major platform update every quarter. But it all depends on the really the cadence of what's coming through, and in particular, when it comes to the various hardware platforms we support, which kind of in many ways mirror what Stan.
Couldn't this be a drawback using the cloud, that you are so agile, that you release so often new features that your customers can't adopt these features so quickly?
I think it's more a case of making sure that the point Stan made, there's no breaking changes. So if people choose to use it, they can, but we would never put a customer in a situation where we enforce a different practice. So, we've supported, Samsung's obviously featured here in the many years that they've been in the market for SoC, and I was up in stage on the launch back in 2013. So we've got C-series panels right the way through to the very latest. Our customers and partners don't care for that. They just care, they want the latest Samsung panel. So we do have many networks where they're running pretty much every generation of Samsung panel since inception. So I think the key thing from our point of view is when we make a product release, we make sure that it doesn't have a net impact. The challenge we have, as I think we all have when we're dealing with third-party hardware platforms, is just making sure that the vendors upstream don't make those changes and impact our customers. We've been able to do things like pin firmware updates, or basically distribute the responsibility to our partners for management of updates, especially in some of the bigger corporate networks that we're working on. 37 country networks, which we've got for major corporate organizations, where they're using a whole range of different technologies, and they've rolled up their platform into Signagelive. We need to make sure that there's control down at those individual levels as to what gets released and when it gets released, so there's no breaks.
Vincent, how do you see this? With this update, it's very...
Well, it's not that we are releasing more features. It's that we are releasing more often a smaller set of features. It's more a stream of feature release than big bang kind of things like in the old time. And again, it's all about not breaking anything. So we can release every week some tweak here, some release there, etc., etc. But I would also say that it's more comfortable for us, because unlike in the old time where you had to maintain different versions, right, for different customers, now all your customers must be on the latest version. So going into that SaaS model is also helping us to be more innovative, because we are always working on the latest version of our platform. We don't have to have this maintenance nightmare that we had in the past.
And I've seen that you released a new analytics tool, and that's now my next question about data. Data is getting more and more important, and to collect this data and transmit this data. And there's also the possibility with the cloud to store tons of data. what are your expectations now also concerning the costs to store all this data infinitely forever?
That's a good question, and we have endless discussions internally and with our customers about, do you need all this data really, and these kind of things. And you're right. Right now, not to give away some secret, but we are spending around 3 to 4% of our revenues in terms of cloud subscription. That's what we pay to Amazon, basically, right? And if you start to collect billions of data points for each customers, which, by the way, they won't be able to manage or figure out, right? So that's another conversation. But that cost is going to increase a lot. So we have to be strict. We have to educate our customers about what are the valuable data they need to collect for which kind of KPIs and so on, because some have the tendency to collect for everything and not doing anything with the data they are collecting. So there is a right balance here, and we have a lot of education to do for
the customers have to learn it, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Christophe, you're longer in the data business. What are your expectations, or can you give us a tip?
About what?
Data and amount of data, storing data, transmitting data, and the costs about this.
Yes, actually, all the data integration that we have, usually it's really the customer will keep their data. We don't store their data for them. But what we see in data integration, that's if, of course, in big international projects, in added value project, you will be much more data integration. That's where the value is. I think for our industry also, that's where the added value is, integrating data, because I mean, it changes digital signage into a business application. So when it's a business application, you will have money, no margin problem anymore, and it will last for a long time. So I think for all our industry, data integration and to have a biggest value in our solution is really, really important. Not only in retail, but in other verticals. There are a lot of other verticals than retail where we can integrate data.
Mm. Thank you. My last question is, also in my long career in digital signage for 20 years now, I've seen also a lot of projects where I was confronted with the ISO certification. And I think you're doing much easier in the cloud. And why did you do this? Did you have this certificates, and are you having benefits with this? Just open.
I'll try to be brief. Yes, super important. Yeah. SOC 2, Type 2, ISO 27001, extremely important if you are going after enterprise level customers. Signage OS is compliant. We're actually getting our audit and certificates during the Q3. I know there are companies that already have this in place. Well, I've got to say we are compliant, so now that's just about the paper. And I think, I mean, you probably cannot be in the business in the next, right, 2 to 4 years.
Is it a lot of effort to get this?
Yeah, I think it ultimately depends on how you operate your business in the first place. Yeah. I think if you go into ISO or something, ISO 27001 in particular, is something that you just want to achieve to ring the bell and tell the world. Yeah. You're going to struggle when it comes back to the reaccreditation period. Whereas I think if you build the foundations, and that goes for the way you operate your business, the way you run your internal IT structure, the way you take data seriously generally as an organization.
It's an organizational issue.
It is very much so. Yeah. Then building out the information system platform for that and submitting that isn't in such a big lift. A lot of work, but that's mainly just to make sure it's documented and processes are followed. But yeah, then it just becomes part of how we do business every day.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay. Maybe one last tip for somebody who wants to move to the cloud. What should I avoid? Nothing. That's also good.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Oh, there we have a question.
What do you tell the more stubborn clients that have closed networks that do
You come to see us because we still are on premise. So I'll tell them that.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, actually. I think, from our point of view, a lot of the situations we can typically get into why the resistance. There are going to be inevitably, whether it's government organisations, situations where you have to say, look, okay, fine, that isn't for us. You need to look at an alternative solution. But I think most of it centres around the sensitivity of data. Yeah, and what's going to end up on the screens and where does that originate from? And, one of the things that we've done is to separate out where data is managed, how content is created using that data, and the ability for us to kind of get to a point where we can kind of co-host that or do something. So it's still cloud created, but it's within their control. Because typically, other than that, you're talking about device management data for the screens and schedules and information that's in the public domain, or certainly in a foyer and a customer's relationship or reception area. So I think it's just really just asking the why and just keep drilling in, because sometimes it's a default or it's it's something that's just legacy to that business. So I think there'll always be a degree of organisations, but we've been pleasantly surprised that some major organisations who we've banking organisations, government organisations who, when we've actually asked the question and understood, and for all the reasons we've said about security around the cloud, and you start challenging them potentially on their security and how they go about keeping things up to date, and they go, okay, yeah, actually we would have been caught out by that particular incident that hit certain Linux servers or Apache servers, and you guys are abstracting us from that. So I think there's always going to be a good argument for going cloud if people are open to the conversation in the first place, and we don't shy away from that. So.
Okay. Thank you very much for having you here on the stage.
Thanks. Cheers.